Welcome to another Spot On Chat. I'm Rebecca Monet with Zorakle Profiles. Zorakle provides profiling tools to franchisors and franchise consultants that helps facilitate a right fit between a prospective franchisee and a franchise concept. My guest today on Spot On Chat is Amy Reed. Amy is the co-founder and co-owner of Woofie's Mobile Pet Spa, and Woofie's Pet Ventures, all which are based in Ashburn, Virginia. So welcome back, Amy.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be back.
Oh, you're so much fun, and I'm getting to learn
I
so
love
much.
talking to you.
So I got to learn so much about you. This last question is the only question that is scripted in any of these Spot On chats. And again, this is my scientist having, curiosity. So it's a what if question. So the question is, Amy, do you have any what ifs or if onlys in your life, and are you willing to share it?
I probably have quite a few, but I would say my biggest what if is the fact that I was living in California in the late 90s. And I was actually working for some .com companies near the end of the whole .com era in Silicon Valley. So that was interesting and a whole other topic to itself. But ended up moving back to Northern Virginia. And at the time, this is 20 some years ago, we were looking at a couple different neighborhoods in Ashburn. And then we were also looking in Reston, so even a different town. And we were between two different houses. And I always think of this, if we had not picked the house that we picked in Cameron Chase in Ashburn, Virginia, I literally moved right across the street from my business partner, Leslie Barron.
Wow.
And I always think about the fact that if we had moved to Reston, or if we had moved to even just a different neighborhood in Ashburn, I don't know if I would have ever met Leslie. I don't know if we ever would have created this business Woofie's that we've had now for the past 16 years. So that's my biggest what if. It's crazy how one decision can change the trajectory of your life, and it's crazy to think about it. So
it is crazy. It is crazy to think about, that this move or this timing or this decision or whatever in some way completely, created a future for you, created a friendship first, and then a mutual passion. And then that passion grew into an idea, and that idea turned into a business, and that business turned into a franchise, and it goes on and on. But this co-creation started from, I live across the street from this really cool lady.
Well, and I guess I should have known it was fate in a really odd way, because when I first moved in and the first time I met Leslie, my mom and dad were in town. And so my mom and I met Leslie, we started talking to her, and Leslie grew up in Nebraska. And her husband went to optometry school at Ohio State. So they lived together in Columbus, Ohio while he was going through optometry school, and then they moved out to Virginia. Well, she worked for a doctor's office when she was in Ohio. She worked for the OBGYN who delivered me many, many years ago. And it was the craziest thing. So I couldn't believe it, how intertwined our lives were way back when, not even realizing it, and then moving across the street from each other, and then having this friendship, and then moving into a business relationship with each other. So it's kind of crazy how things turn out. I obviously was meant to move into that house. So.
You were meant to move into that house. You were meant to bump into each other and have this conversation, which then bloomed into an incredible amount of things for both of you. And to have you be so harmonious, you complement each other so beautifully. It's just, it really is amazing. Like you said, wonder what would have happened if you hadn't, I
know. I think about that a lot. I do think I would have owned a business at some point in my life, because I was entrepreneurial and I had that inside me even as a young kid, just wanting to get out and do something. And I love the idea of having a business. And, after being in corporate for 12 plus years, I was done with corporate world. I never would go back. Couldn't even pay me to ever go back to that.
No, me
But,
either.
I think I definitely would have had a business. I know I would have had something related to animals because I have such a passion for animals, and that I've had since I was a little girl too. So I think I would have somehow been in this business. I don't know how or to what extent, to what degree, but I know for a fact it would never have been as successful if I hadn't met Leslie, because we both bring so much and so many different things to the table. And we worked really hard to grow this business over the past 16 years. And I feel very fortunate that our paths did cross, because Woofie's wouldn't be here today. And it's really our livelihood. That's what every day, 7 days a week, it's Woofie's all day long. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I love it. So
Yeah, you can tell you love it.
I do.
So how are you two? We know how you're the same.
Mhm.
How are you different, you and Leslie?
I'm definitely, I can be a little more direct and probably not the best way. She's definitely more the heart. And she's amazing with people. Like clients absolutely love her. The team members, she's got such a huge heart. And I kind of joke around with her, slight enabler, but in a great way, great way. And
Yeah.
we talk about it all the time. And I can sometimes be a little too direct or maybe a little harsh on things. So I think we bring
She
that.
softens you and you toughen her up from the sounds of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And there are sometimes in some situations in business where she needs to take the lead, because you need a little bit of a softer hand with,
Mm-hmm.
especially if it's maybe a client or employee or something like that. And then there's other times where I need to take the lead, on a certain situation. So we know how to kind of work that with each other. And it's very rare that we bump heads, because we kind of know when to back off and when it might be better for either her or for me to take a lead on something. So, even with moving into franchising, we have our corporate office in Ashburn, which we just had our 16th anniversary last month. And she really takes the lead on the corporate running the Ashburn, and I take a little bit more of the lead on a franchise. But we're obviously very connected with all the
Mm-hmm.
businesses, and I think we bring our strengths, to the different businesses. And I think we also are good at identifying our weaknesses. If there's an
Mm-hmm.
area where maybe she's much stronger than me, she should take the lead. And I think that's important to recognize that and get the ego out of the way. We don't
Yes.
have the ego back and forth. And you need to have that, especially in a partnership. You really need to make sure that the ego is at the door.
Yeah.
It doesn't work
The,
otherwise.
the pride, the ego is
Mhm.
always the downfall of any relationship, let alone a business partnership. It has to be, we're a team, we're a team, we're a team. And God gave you strengths and abilities and gave her strengths and abilities. And here you are together, having discovered one another's strengths and weaknesses. And you can compensate for each other, take the lead where you need to, etc., which makes for a great, volleying in whatever the game is we're playing. In this case, we're playing the game of business.
Mhm.
So,
And if there is a conflict, I don't fear conflict. I have no problem. We don't agree 100% all the time on everything, and we just talk it out. And sometimes, especially in the early days, maybe got a little heated, and that's where you step away, cool it down, and then you go back and talk. We've gotten very good, and it's not often. It's not even
of
that often
course,
at all. But it's normal. You work with somebody 7 days a week. There's going to be areas in the business where maybe
you
you
don't
come at
agree.
it with a different viewpoint, and you
Mm-hmm.
may disagree, and it's okay to disagree. I mean, I wouldn't expect to agree 100% all the time. That just is not realistic.
No,
So,
and
but
it's
you
not
can't,
healthy.
it's not healthy.
It's
No.
not healthy for a business. It's not healthy for a relationship. You just have a yes person at that point. You have a partner because you want another perspective and additional strengths. And And that's the purpose of a healthy relationship. If we're exactly the same, there's going to be um, no real growth, right? Personally, professionally, spiritually, or anything. It's just not going to happen.
I think a business relationship is like a marriage. I mean, you have to work at it all the time, and you have to be on the same page. You have to have that same core vision, values, mission. You know, the core has to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, it is for myself and Leslie. But it's good to have some differences, but you have to be able to work through those when there are challenging times or things that come up that, you know, could be a little bit difficult. That's where you have to really work together. So I think of it all the time as like a marriage. It's definitely something you work at every day.
Yeah, it really is. And sometimes realizing um, this situation, it doesn't really matter. And if our ego's involved or our pride's involved, we set it aside. I worked with two people that were in a partnership, in a franchise. And when the issue was kind of a minor issue, but they were disagreeing, they would use rock, paper, scissors to.
I love that.
It's a great idea. It added a sense of levity to the situation. Like, really, we're going to argue about the color of the walls? I say, right, so we're going to do rock, paper, scissors over this. Really?
You
Is
know
it
what?
really?
More people should do that.
There's a great solution.
Yeah.
Amy, I've so enjoyed our conversation. Thank you for giving me this time. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed talking to you. I can't thank you
Excellent.
enough for this.
Oh, my pleasure. So much fun for me. All right, we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.